What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're doing a few things. I think first I'm going to get the Type 3 Fastback in the lift bay, get it up in the air, and kind of make a preliminary list of parts I want to get coming for that car so we can see if the transmission is good, so we can actually move this car. A few episodes ago, we got it running for the first time, officially running for the first time in over 30 years. And that's my speculation because the last registered dump sticker and a few other registration stickers that were on the car was 1989. So although Pep and his father, who I got the car from, had it barked over a couple of times on some starting fluid, we got it running and idling, which is pretty crazy how good the thing actually sounded. So although our main focus for the next couple of months in time for Alpine Volks Fair in Helen, Georgia, is literally getting the 1000 SP done, which every day that passes, I start to put myself into some sort of state of denial that we've got enough time when we still need to build a chassis between the body and the beetle pan under it. I mean, the fabrication involved, the suspension, and even the motor. This is what we're going to be working on today as well, is we're going to mock up the motor to the beetle pan that's under the 1000 SP, which started life as a front-engined 3-cylinder 2-stroke water-cooled car. I still need a steering wheel on this thing. My buddy Sam Bunker might swing by today with a steering wheel that will hopefully fit. That'll make moving this thing around in the yard that much easier. All right, so quick look at the Type 3 again on the lift. So I think what we'll do is we'll at least get all 4 rubber brake hoses at all 4 corners ordered. Hardlines surprisingly look good, but this car lived most of its life in Tennessee and Florida, so it didn't drive in salt-infested roads like I did in New Hampshire. We'll get some rubber lines coming and maybe a master cylinder. That master cylinder looks like an archaeological dig find. So I think we'll start there. There's really not much else I wanted to get a look at. Just looking underneath at everything that might need to get moved. A lot of you guys who know Type 3s well as far as lowering them, we are going to use a hybrid of Type 1 Beetle stuff in the front, Type 1 beam, and a lot of modification in the rear, obviously adjustable and drop spring plates, but we're going to try to raise a lot of stuff too, not just the motor. We're going to essentially try to body drop this car since it's so crusty. We're going to go super low with this thing. It is kind of a nuisance that it's an automatic, and that automatic transmission pan hangs down pretty low. As far as the front brakes go, when we do a Type 1 front end conversion on this, Type 1 beam, we're going to run Type 1 Beetle arms as well. So all these brakes will be Beetle brakes, essentially. So this is all going to get redone. Drop spindles, knuckles, hats, calipers, rotors, all that's going to be Beetle. So all this will get replaced. So I got a small list of things to order for this. We'll get this back down off the lift. We'll get the auto union over, and we'll look at mocking up the motor in this thing. All right, guys, so I told you in the last episode that we are doing a BMW 700 t-shirt drop next week, and my good friend Dustin Williams from Okie Doke brand is going to be printing them in-house, and I just got a care package in from him, all in-house made. Look at the detail. So sick. So I can't wait to get the BMW 700 shirts in stock and out to you guys. So my buddy Sam Bunker just swung by with a steering wheel for the Type 3. So huge thanks to Sam. Literally just moved that car in and out of the shop without a steering wheel. And he pulls in as I'm backing it back into its spot with a steering wheel. So that was hopefully the last time I ever have to move that car without a steering wheel. So I got the auto union pushed back over into the lift bay and got the motor rolled out. So if you guys missed it, this is the Type 3 motor that I went up to Bristol, Tennessee to get. Test fit after test fit of Type 1 motors, including the 1600 dual port with the Puma shroud, the South American Puma shroud that's in the 700, would not fit underneath the original trunk lid of the 1000 SP at the height the body needs to be at over the pan. We just didn't have enough overhead clearance. That Puma shroud, even though that's a significant 2-inch maybe shorter than a normal Type 1 fan shroud, we still couldn't get the body down over it without it hitting. So even with the idea of doing hinge spacers and kind of doing a hood riser mod to both get clearance on the Puma shroud, but also get airflow over the car down into the fan for the Type 1 motor setup, we still didn't have enough room. So I decided to start the search for a Type 3 motor which was taking me forever. I honestly thought I was going to have to succumb to buying like a square back or something, buy a full car that was running and driving just for the motor. But that's when we found this one in Bristol, which we've kind of established that this was a fresh rebuild. Not sure if it's been run, but everything looks new and replaced on this motor. So I'm super excited to hear this thing run for the first time. It won't be in this episode, but I need to get a flywheel and a few other things to get this thing running, even if it's just out here on the stand. For the first time today, we're gonna get it mated up to the crash box in the Beetle pan under the auto union and see what we have for space and hopefully have enough overhead hood clearance. If not, we'll move this carburetor. We'll end up doing an OEM carburetor type 3 setup and run a carburetor on either side. Not sure if this is still going to be too tight to the trunk lid, but we're gonna find that out today. So what I've done here is I've got a bar that crosses the span of the body to help hold the body together because we've cut everything out of this. This is all Volkswagen Beetle. And I've got the body up a ways now. You can see we've cut everything out. So what I've done here is I've just made some placeholder locators off of this bar that go to the rear body mounts on the pan itself. So that allows me to just locate the body centered over the Beetle pan, which is massive because every time this goes up, it shifts a little bit. Every time I do something on the pan, on jack stands, that shifts a little bit and they never pair back up. All right, got some hardware for the motor mounts. We got a bolt and a couple of nuts for the studs on the bottom. And what I'm gonna do first, that I've been putting off for quite a while now, are the transmission mounts. Now, clearly, those need to be replaced. And I actually have a pair right here. I bought 2 pairs when we did the transmission mounts in the 64 Beetle. So these have been laying around. Now's as good a time as any to replace them. We'll obviously do throw out bearing and arm and all that stuff once we get to that point, once I have a flywheel and clutch for that motor. We don't have that, so at least what I'll do now is the transmission mounts. I have already clearanced this magnesium case for a 200 millimeter flywheel. If you guys haven't seen that episode, I've already done that. And I tried to do my best. I didn't get into the studs here. I didn't even notice in the last clip, the studs are snapped right off. They go down through the bell housing to mount to the transmission mount. And you'll see when I put some pressure on just the transmission, both sides are completely snapped off. All right, well, as you can see, the old transmission mounts were long overdue to be replaced. So we've got some brand new ones. They don't come with new hardware though, so you got to make sure you save your through bolt, which mounts it to the cradle, and your washer and nut that actually fasten it to the transmission itself. All right, new mounts are in. The transmission sits up off that cradle rather than on it like it's supposed to. So let's go take the motor off that dolly and onto my motorcycle jack, essentially, that I use for these motors. And we'll get it mounted up. And then we'll set that guy back down. All right, so I've never done this whole YouTube magic thing. All right, is that how that's done? I don't know. But we're on the motorcycle stand now. All right, so we're just about there, but the one problem I'm seeing already is the back part of the exhaust manifold from cylinders 1 and 3. The heat exchanger or heat distributor into the cabin is hitting the axle on both sides at this articulation, which will be this much, if not more, when the car's aired out. So you can see here, because of the height of the axle, this is hitting. So we're gonna have to modify that for sure. But I'm looking at just letting this down a little bit to get it in enough to at least bolt it together. But the lower studs are in. On the actual motor end, those are through the transmission bell housing. So I'm gonna put some nuts on those so they're fixed. And we'll try to get this bolt through and threaded into this threaded port here. Okay. All right, well, we are mated. I had to bring the axle down a little bit to get that heat exchanger some clearance so we could get this top bolt tight. So now I think what we'll do is we'll bring the body down and we'll just take the first look at how much engine bay, trunk, space this thing takes up. We have seen a Type 1 motor in this engine bay before. There's plenty of room front to back. All right, so we're not quite set all the way down yet. We still have about 1.5 inches to go. Tailpipe is hitting the passenger side bumper mount here. This actually is a pretty close layout to where I'd want the exhaust to come out. We'll probably still make something custom here. This is so close. So what we're gonna do is we'll separate it at the flange here, just so we can set the body down as low as we need to. We can adjust exhaust stuff later on, because probably what I want to do, just like in the 700, is go this way, maybe keep this, and then make a 180-degree turn here and go underneath our rear bumper, just like we did in the 700. And that'll help give this a deeper tone the longer we make the exhaust. Okay. All right, so we have the body located on the body mount locators. We ultimately still need to go down a little bit. I think it's gonna be close. We'll probably still have to do some modifications. We're obviously not bolted up, but it clears. Like, we're not bolted on, but I can, like, we could even modify this just a smidge, which is what I did on the trunk of the 700. Because even with the Puma shroud, that upright Type 1 motor, the hood has, it's not a box or a channel like that. It's like one piece of like flat stock vertical, and I just took a notch out of it to shut it down over the air intake. Now we do want to set the body down a little bit more, but
we can work with that.
Dude, it's still, it doesn't touch.
Yeah, that's crazy.
To the point where if we go down another 1/2 inch of the body down over the pan, we could modify that channel. We could just box it. So let me reiterate. We are on an incredibly tight timeline to get this thing done driving for Alpine Volksfair. So whatever we can do now to check things off the list, we're going to do now. In the long run, yeah, I want some Webers, some dual Webers on either side. That'll give us the clearance we want. But we got to deal with manifold. We got to buy carburetors. Time for the amount of work and finances for the amount of money I still got to spend on this project in a tight amount of time. The fact that this will shut, and we do want to go down a little bit more with the body, this is a huge success. Come look at you guys. Some of you guys who've been on the channel, you know, this is ride height. That's literally ride height. And we want to account for that a little bit more with the body on the pan. Yeah. Oh man. This is big. This is why I wanted to do a Type 3 motor. When the Type 1 motor wouldn't work, I was like, Type 3 motor has to work, please. Motor mounted, hood will shut. We'll end up doing something here for air intake since the Type 3s pull from the back.
The other thing that we talked about potentially doing is a riser in the back to help with airflow.
If we can make it look cool, that'll also get us clearance because of how close we are, even though it looks like it'll work. But it'll also help with airflow because we could get airflow under movement coming over the roof of the car. But also if we did something that didn't look too forced in the back. Rear engined 1000 SP. This gives us a good amount of space. These aren't staying. This was just to help keep the rear end together. This gives us enough room to come back from like the factory crossbar under the window here and come down and box in around the motor. Yeah, it's really cool seeing that motor sitting there with the amount of space we have. We could probably still get away with like a battery box over to the side here. And you know what I'm looking at right now? Just like in the fastback, when you open the trunk, you've got your like oil cap right here. You see what I'm seeing?
Yeah. There we go.
You're supposed to put oil in this because this car originally was a 2-stroke, right? So you have to mix your oil first, fuel second. I say we make some wonky tube that a dipstick can fit down.
Yep.
Some custom dipstick. And we actually use this as our oil fill.
It's not that far off.
That'd be so cool, right? I didn't think about that till now.
Yep.
That'd be really cool to like keep the trunk shut, pull that off, and pull your dipstick.
Yep.
And still be able to pour oil in there and fill it with oil.
Yep.
That's probably going to be my favorite part of this whole car. Got to order some Type 3 J-pipes to get rid of these heat tubes. As you can see, those are hitting the axles. And we'll get some J-pipes in off of cylinder 1 and cylinder 3 so we can remount this header and get rid of these here so those stay far away from the axle. I don't have to worry about those. Last night off camera, I was talking with my friend Mike Unland again about this project. And it just so happens he has a full dual carb OEM Type 3 setup that he's taking off of a Type 3 motor to do some Webers on. I do want to do Webers on this thing ultimately, but since time is of the essence right now, I'm working with what I got. I'm going to pull the trigger on Mike's setup. Mike has offered me that dual carb OEM setup, and by the looks of it, we're going to lose the entire height of the base of the carburetor to the top of the air filter. We're going to lose all of that. So we by far will have enough overhead clearance on this motor to put the hood down all the way, regardless of how much farther we need to go down on the body. Just a quick episode, but a vital one, knowing that for sure we are now moving forward on getting this thing running. I've got a slew of parts to order. I do have a flywheel that was already here, got to get a clutch and all the transmission pieces. So thank you guys so much for watching. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Next week, we're doing the BMW 700 t-shirt drop, so stay tuned for that. Well, that's it for now, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I'm about to go order a whole bunch of parts for this car to keep the progress rolling. We'll see you in the next episode.